Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel on a glorious, as every Friday is, glorious Friday of the week, heading into the Christmas holiday weekend. I hope you guys are having a great time today, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. You know, first thing I should probably mention around here today is that, yes, a lot of people have been asking me, am I still going to be making videos over the weekend and over the Christmas holidays? And the answer to that question is yes. The John Campea Show goes live on Saturday and Sunday. Even though that's Christmas Eve, we will be live on Sunday as well. And we will have videos. I won't be making 2 or 3 videos every single day over the Christmas break. I'm going to be up in Canada, but I am going to be making videos from up there. So yes, this channel will be active over the holiday season. And I hope that you guys, when you're not busy with family and friends and you're just kicking back, relaxing, you might want to pop open YouTube and join me for a little bit of those. All right. Here we go. We got a whole bunch of stuff that we're talking about here today, including 5 topics that you guys have emailed into me. Now, how do you email in a topic or a question to be used on the John Campea Show? It's really quite simple. You simply email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line, or else I'm not going to know it's for the show. And as always, guys, make sure you keep your emails to 90 words or less. Now, once we're done that part of the show, we're going to be going into the live questions that you guys send in to me. The best way to send in a live question is using the super chat, because that guarantees your question gets answered. But also, if we have time at the end of the show, I will go over to Twitter as well. We haven't had time lately, but just in case we do, we will go to Twitter. So, with all that out of the way, let's dive into the first topic today. And the first topic today comes to us from Daniel Marcuson, who writes, "Hey John, love the show." Thank you so much, Daniel. "There were some conflicting bits of information out there about just how much of the Han Solo movie was reshot and how much left. So, just how much did Ron Howard do on this, and will it still hit the May release date?" That's the big question there that I'm getting from most people lately. Seems to be that last part of your question is Solo still going to hit the May release date? Yesterday on the show, somebody wrote in asking, hey, we're 5 months away from the movie and there's no trailer yet. Should we be worried? And it's like, no, never be worried that they haven't started marketing yet, because even if the movie sucks, they could still put out great trailers. So this is just part of their marketing strategy, I'm sure, at this point. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. I still believe the movie will make the May release date. Now, I mentioned about a week or so ago that I heard from somebody that the idea of moving Solo off the May release date is still being batted around. Now, apparently, they're still targeting the May release date. I still believe it's going to make the May release date. I'm just saying that I have heard that the idea of moving it is still a little bit in play, although not necessarily that that's going to happen. Actually, probably won't happen. But I still believe it's going to hit the May release date. I think that's a fairly safe assumption, but never is anything 100% for sure. Now, going back to the first part of your question, how much did he reshoot? Well, Paul Bettany, who of course is Vision in the Infinity War and in the Avengers world, he was recently talking about Solo because he's in Solo. And they were talking about Ron Howard and his approach. And this is what Paul Bettany had to say in a recent interview. Paul Bettany said this, talking about Ron Howard. "His staging ability is so fucking brilliant," says Bettany of Howard. "I think he went in and he was like a laser, working out what needed to be done when he looked at the footage. And then, as things moved on, everybody felt so secure with him and they gave him more. He reshot a lot more than it was originally intended." Okay, so this tells us a couple of things. First thing it tells us was that they probably didn't think he was going to reshoot that much, just enough to change the tone of the film. But it does also tell us that he ended up reshooting a whole lot more. Apparently, Ron Howard's just a machine. He is one of the best directors working. He's amazing. Not all of his movies crank it out of the park, but he's got so many films that are on any movie fan's must-see list that you got to consider him one of the best. Maybe not in the top 5 or anything, but he's one of the best. So I guess maybe Lucasfilm was even more unhappy with what Lord and Miller were putting out and the tone of it. So it looks like Ron Howard has done a lot more to this film than even he originally thought. And it sounds like, according to Paul Bettany, that everything's going great. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Paul Bettany is an actor in an upcoming movie, working for a director, a very famous, respected director. What else is Paul Bettany going to say? Is he going to come out and say, well, I mean, I don't know about this Solo movie and that Ron Howard guy? He's all right. I mean, what's he going to say? He's being paid to be in this movie. He's promoting this movie. So, of course, he's going to speak glowingly about it. But it's still encouraging to see him speaking glowingly about it, especially in the terms that he used. So, yes, it does look like Ron Howard directed enough of this film. And I was pointing this out when they announced that they had wrapped the reshoots. I remember mentioning and pointing this out on the show. It's like, man, he did reshoots for longer, much longer, than most movies take to do their principal photography in the first place. He did more time in reshoots than most movies do their entire production shoots with. So I have a feeling when it's all said and done, and of course this will be up to the Directors Guild of America to decide who gets directing credit, but I think it's starting to look like Ron Howard is probably going to be the credited director, and maybe exclusively. I was thinking for a while, maybe it'll be Lord and Miller and Ron Howard. Then I started thinking maybe it'll be Ron Howard with Lord and Miller. Now I'm starting to think that he may have redone enough of this film that Ron Howard may get exclusive directing credit on this. We'll have to wait and see. Again, the Directors Guild of America will make that determination. They'll decide if enough new stuff was shot replacing the old footage to justify making Ron Howard the director of credit on the film. We'll have to wait and see. But it kind of looks to me like that's the direction it's heading. Anyway, all right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. All right, we move on now to question number 2. And question number 2 comes to us from Rebecca Stein, who writes, have you seen that new picture of Jason Statham in Meg with the shark? The thing looks creepy and I love it. What do you think the chances are that this movie ends up being any good? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Rebecca. And yeah, for those of you not sure what picture she's talking about, this is a picture that got released by Empire. You see, that shark looks amazing. That thing looks incredible. So I guess, I mean, I'm anticipating at some point Jason Statham is going to jump into the water and start, doing spin kicks on the shark. I don't know. I have no idea how Jason Statham's supposed to fight this thing. But yes, I agree with you. The actual picture itself looks fantastic. I love the look of it. It looks great. So it's kind of cool seeing him in there doing that. Yeah, the picture looks wonderful. It looks great. Now, for those of you who don't know much about the Meg Project, this is a project they've been trying to get going for 10 years. I remember it was being fast-tracked at one point, but then the budget for, I believe, if you believe the stories, it was Rush Hour 3. They decided they were going to do Rush Hour 3, and the budget for it got announced, and it was big enough that they decided to take Meg off the table. So Rush Hour 3 apparently is the thing that kind of prevented Meg from happening a while ago. So now here we are. Meg is now finally happening. Anyway, for those of you who don't know much about the movie, here's the synopsis. Okay, I'm going to read it at length so you guys get a sense for the movie. Right. The synopsis for Meg reads like this. A deep-sea submersible, part of an international undersea observation program, has been attacked by a massive creature previously thought to be extinct and now lies disabled at the bottom of the deepest trench in the Pacific. With its crew trapped inside, with time running out, expert deep-sea rescue diver Jonas Taylor, played by Jason Statham, is recruited by a visionary Chinese oceanographer, played by Winston Chow, against the wishes of his daughter, Su Yin, played by Li Bingbing. To save the crew and the ocean itself, from the unstoppable threat, a prehistoric 75-foot-long shark known as the Megalodon. What no one could have imagined is that years before, Taylor had encountered this terrifying creature. Now, teamed with Su Yin, he must confront his fears and risk his own life to save everyone trapped below, bringing him face to face once more with the greatest and largest predator of all time. And then Jason Statham will punch the shark in the face and make some quippy British joke, whatever, while he's doing it. I don't know. Anyone want shark soup? I don't know. That was a terrible Jason Statham imitation, by the way. Just forget I said that. Okay, so anyway, what do I think? I don't know. I've got a feeling this is not going to be the next Jurassic Park. Although Jason Statham was quoted as saying that this movie is kind of like a mix between Jurassic Park and something else. Maybe it was Tremors and Jurassic Park, something along those lines. This isn't going to become the next big classic movie. That's for sure. All right? Let's just get that out of the way right now. But can it be fun? Maybe. A lot of movies like this try to just be fun movies, and they just end up being dumb and stupid and not fun at all. And that could very well happen with Meg. I've got a soft spot in my heart for Jason Statham. I just think I love seeing him on screen, whether it's an action or comedy or, idealistically a combination of the two. I thought he was the best thing about that movie Spy that was out a couple of years ago. So maybe this could be great, but I will say this, the shark looks great. That image in Empire does look great. I'm encouraged by it, so let's wait and see how that all turns out. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Bobby Russell. And Bobby Russell writes, what do you think of Tarantino hiring Mark Smith to write the script for his Star Trek movie? With the hire, does this now officially mean that the movie is actually happening? Is Tarantino actually directing it? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, although I'm sure most of you do. So it got reported a few weeks ago that, Quentin Tarantino went to J.J. Abrams with an idea for a Star Trek movie. J.J. liked it. So him and Quentin Tarantino went to Paramount with it. Paramount apparently liked it, and they gave the go-ahead to start looking for a screenwriter to hire to write out a screenplay to see if they can make something work. At this stage, that's all that's happened. This is not confirmed, and it's not even been confirmed that if the movie happens that Tarantino will direct. Let's be really clear about that, because I've been reading some things online lately that some people seem to be under the mistaken impression that Tarantino is in fact directing this film. We don't know that. Nobody has officially said that. All they said is that he has an eye on directing it, but he's got that other movie he's got to get done and out of the way first. Now, as far as them hiring Mark L. Smith, hey, The Revenant was a fantastic movie, obviously, all right, with all the Oscars that it won and all that kind of stuff. So clearly that movie's great. But when you look down his list of previous screenplays, not a lot stands out. So was Revenant just the real example of the type of screenplay he can write? Or was it a fluke? I don't know. But the script was fantastic. So I'm going to take it as good news that they got this guy on to write the script for it. Sure, I'll take it as good news. However, let's keep this in mind. When you ask, does that mean this movie is officially now happening? No. About 1 out of every 100 films that get to this stage actually go on to get made into a feature-length film. All right. So this is a stage that a lot of projects get to, concept work, somebody buys into the concept, they say, okay, flesh it out, make it into something, they get a screenplay together, and then sometimes it dies there. So no, there is nothing suggesting at this point that we are 100% getting the Star Trek movie, nor is there anything to suggest that Tarantino is definitely directing it. This is just the next step in the process. Is it encouraging that we've hit this next step in the process? Absolutely it is. It's absolutely encouraging. It is one step closer to this movie becoming a reality, and possibly one step closer to Quentin Tarantino actually directing the damn thing, but we are not there yet for either of those two situations. Let's keep that in mind. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Daem Choudhury, who writes, "Hey John, how are you? I'm fine, thank you so much, Daem. I know this is kind of movie related, but recently Marc Guggenheim said that Deathstroke is now off limits on Arrow because of his role in the DCEU. As a fan of Arrow, I'm disappointed because Manu Bennett is effing awesome as Slade. What are your thoughts on Warner Brothers not allowing CW to use characters because of the DCEU? It's like my tiny brain can't differentiate between the movies and TV." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And for those of you who not heard about this, as you know, on Arrow, for those of you maybe who don't watch Arrow, the actor Manu Bennett plays Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and he's great as Deathstroke. He is a fantastic Deathstroke. I totally get why they didn't use him in the movies. They're keeping their TV and their movie universes separate. I get it. That's not a problem. But on the TV show, he's fantastic. Anyway, and as most of you know now, spoiler alert for Justice League, if any of you care, in the end credit scene of Justice League, we have Joe Manganiello show up as Deathstroke. So they're going to be using Deathstroke, maybe, in their cinematic world. So as a result of that, Marc Guggenheim mentioned that they've been told in the TV universe that Deathstroke right now is off limits. They can't use Deathstroke. To me, this is disappointing on several levels and also defies common sense. Look, I get you don't want to use Batman in the television universe. That's a character that's your most valuable IP. You want to protect that IP. I get it. That's fine. I understand that. I was actually quite surprised when they started using Superman on Supergirl, and then I realized, oh, they're just putting Superman on Supergirl to make Superman Supergirl's bitch, so they can put her over and make her look good, and which totally pissed me off. But anyway, so I understand if there's certain characters they want to use, but there's a lot of characters they do use. They use Flash on television in the movies. They do, like, so they've got a lot of stuff going on. Here's the question I want to ask. What the hell is the point of keeping your television and movie universes separate, which, by the way, I think is the right thing to do. I think the way Warner Brothers does it is the smart way to do it. The way Marvel does it is the dumb way to do it, although Marvel seems to be picking up on that, and they keep separating a lot of their TV shows from their movie universe more and more and more, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. notwithstanding. But so I believe that the way Warner Brothers does it is the smart way to do it. Keep your TV and your movie universes separate so you can have pure creative freedom at both. Your hands aren't tied by what the other is doing. Great. But what the hell is the point of doing that if, oh, we've got this guy's popping up as a character in the movies now. Stop using Deathstroke in TV. What's the point then? What's the point of having two separate universes? The whole idea of having two separate universes is so you don't have your creative forces, your filmmakers, your TV show runners, you don't want to have their hands tied creatively and cause a lot of confusion, whatever, and you don't want to have them be limited by what they can do because of what the other's doing. That's the whole point of having separate television and movie universes. So what's the point of doing it if the moment, oh, now we're bringing Deathstroke in over here, stop using Deathstroke on TV? How the hell does that make any sense at all? How does that make any fucking sense? It makes no sense. He's one of the best characters on that show. A show that apparently you have no plans to cancel. So you're going to step in and say, oh, we're going to tie your hands creatively, television universe, by saying this character, who's already a character in your universe and has an ongoing presence in the shows, played by Manu Bennett, since we're going to use him over here, now you can't use him. We're going to creatively tie your hands and say you can't use that character. Isn't not creatively tying the hands the whole point of separating the movie and the television universe? You're just completely contradicting your own logic, which, by the way, you have some pretty damn good logic. Separating the TV and the movie universes was a brilliant idea and has given you the freedom to have one movie universe and a totally different feeling television universe that's completely different from the movie universe, where you can have a Flash here and you can have a Flash here. And it's fantastic. It's great. And now, oh, wait a second, guy who might be a villain in one of them, well, even though you've already started using them on TV, that's some of the stupidest things I've seen them do with this so far. Warner Brothers, who has handled this way better than Disney has, with their television and cinematic universe, I think Warner Brothers just completely head and shoulders above the way Disney's handled it. Until this. Because again, I've repeated 8 times, what's the fucking point of separating your TV and movie universes? If you're just going to go to your TV guys anyway and say, oh, we're going to creatively tie your hands. Well, no, we get it. We can't use Batman. No. A character you already use, don't use him anymore. Why? Oh, because we might use him over here. But that's the whole point. Anyway. Bothers me. Now, I'm biased in this because, like, other than Stephen Amell himself, who plays Arrow, and I think Stephen Amell's a superstar, Manu Bennett is the best thing about that show. And they hardly ever use him. And they just used him this season in a short story arc that was fantastic. And he's great. And the idea now that, oh, one of the best things about your show, you don't get to do it anymore, is just mind-numbingly stupid. Seriously. Some of the decisions being made at Warner Brothers these days defies logic. Just absolutely defies logic. And I'm just beside myself. I just can't understand what their rationale is. There is no reasonable rationale. They're just being idiotic. This is just an idiotic decision. Anyway, that's that. Okay, let's move on now to the final emailed in question today. And the final emailed in question today comes to us from Ryan Hirsch. And Ryan Hirsch writes, okay, it's the end of the year and my favorite movie of 2017 is still Logan. Me too, Ryan. I'm not going to be one of those guys that will yell snub if it doesn't get a Best Picture nomination, but I was wondering what your thoughts were on its chances. No comic book superhero movie has ever been nominated for Best Picture. Is there any chance it could happen now? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And I'll tell you what, the other day, Darkest Hour got really close to toppling Logan as my favorite film of the year. It's great. That's the one with Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill. It's fantastic. Anyway, and there's a number of fantastic films this year. There are enough fantastic films this year, like truly fantastic films, that if Logan doesn't get a nomination, it's kind of understandable, I guess. Because there are, seriously, the Best Picture category this year is going to be packed with fantastic films from top to bottom, whether or not Logan gets in there. Because this has been a spectacular year for film. If you're somebody who really appreciates film, this 2017 has been spectacular. And there's going to be a great list. For me, Logan still belongs on that list. Logan, to me, is still the best picture of the year. Now, so I believe it belongs in at least getting a nomination. Again, I'm like you. I'm not going to jump up and down and yell snub if it doesn't, because there are some really great contenders. I get it. There's going to be about 5 or 6 movies this year that don't get a Best Picture nomination that would have gotten nominations in other years. Like, it's just going to be a shame. The fact of the matter is there's going to be 4 or 5, maybe even 6 films that really had legit shots at getting a Best Picture nomination that won't get it this year. And it'll be a shame for all of them. I mean, it sucks, but that's the reality of it. That's why it's so hard to win an Oscar. That's why it's so special to win an Oscar, because it's damn near impossible to win one. Okay, with that being said, I have been getting encouraged lately about the prospects that maybe there are enough people paying attention that Logan could become the first comic book superhero movie to actually get a Best Picture nomination. I'm seeing Patrick Stewart pop up on some of the critic organization's Best Supporting Actor list, which is something I am demanding happens, because Patrick Stewart, I believe, deserves a Best Supporting Actor nomination even more than Logan deserves a Best Picture nomination. Like, I strongly feel that way. So I've been getting encouraged, because I didn't think it would happen, because I thought, like, the critic organizations, the Academy, something that they're all just going to ignore Logan, except for in the technical categories. Even though we have some precedent in the past of, obviously Heath Ledger winning Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards, which is great. And there are other examples too. But for the most part, the superhero movies kind of get ignored a little bit. Patrick Stewart deserves a Best Supporting Actor nomination. Hands down. I've now seen all the films that have contenders for it. And there are some great nominees. But Patrick Stewart, I believe, 100% deserves to be on that list. That's just my opinion. But I've been getting encouraged lately, because I'm actually seeing some other people agreeing with me, like the actual award bodies. Some various award bodies are putting Patrick Stewart up there in their nominee list. I'm like, that's encouraging to see. And one of the things, now granted, this isn't a big news item. I just got encouraged by this, and it's my fucking show, so I decided it was fun enough to talk about. But it was really encouraging for me to see that Variety is actually acknowledging, like the biggest trade, that and Hollywood Reporter, the biggest trades in the business, Variety is acknowledging that Logan is a contender for Best Picture. They just did an article called Oscars Best Picture Contenders Add New Twist on Old Movie Genres. So what it does is it looks at several films that they consider to be contenders for Best Picture and realize how they kind of put a twist on previously assumed genres. Like Logan, they make the argument, is not just your stereotypical comic book superhero movie. It's in the vein of the old gritty Western, and it kind of puts the genre on its head a bit. But here's the thing. They only list about 4 or 5 films in that thing. And besides Logan, these are the other films that they mentioned. These are clearly Best Picture nominees. Shape of Water is one of the other ones they mentioned. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is fantastic if you haven't seen it yet. That's definitely going to get nominated for Best Picture. Dunkirk and Lady Bird. Those 4 and Logan are put in there. It's really encouraging to somebody like me who kind of feels like Logan is the best picture of the year so far, to see that an outlet like Variety, the most respected in the business, that and Hollywood Reporter, they're actually listing that as an Oscar contender. So if I had to put $5 down, do I think Logan is going to get a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards this year? I probably wouldn't be willing to bet money that it is going to happen for sure. I'm not willing to do that. However, that being said, it is really encouraging, though, to see that there is some groundswell of people actually finally acknowledging that Logan is one of the best films of the year. This is the best chance we've had of having a comic book superhero movie actually deserving and actually happening, getting an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. I really hope it happens. Now, I know, because they've talked to me, I know of a couple of Academy voters who watch this show. Let me speak to every Academy voter out there. You need to put Logan on this list. Logan deserves to be on this list. Not because it's popular, not because we haven't nominated one before, but because it deserves it on its own merits. This is a great movie. I understand if it's not your favorite movie of the year, but come on. In an era where we have 8, 9, or 10 slots for nominees, Logan deserves one of those spots. And I know we got 3 billboards, and I know we've got Wind River, and I know we got Darkest Hour, and I know we've got The Post, and I know we've got Lady Bird, and I know we've got Dunkirk, and I know we've got Molly's Game, and I know we've got on and on. I know there's a lot of great deserving films this year, but Logan needs to be one of them. The return of the gritty Western. Anyway, it's just, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the fact that I'm starting to see some things that are giving me some hope that maybe it'll actually happen. So here's going with my fingers crossed. All right, guys, that will do it for the emailed in questions today. We now move on to that part of the show where we take your live questions. Again, send them on in via the super chat, send them in via Twitter a little bit later if we still have time. And you know what? I know, keep sending. You tell you what, I think there's still room for a couple super chats if you want to send them in for like 2 more minutes, but then stop after that. All right, now before we get to that, it is that time of the show for my 1-minute commercial break where I admittedly shamelessly plug my Patreon campaign. You know, we are closing in. We're 370 new supporters away from hitting 1,000 Patreon supporters. And if we hit that goal, that means that we'll actually have enough resources here to actually hire some creative help to work with me on the John Campea Show and some other stuff we're doing. Maybe a graphics editing person, maybe another on-camera talent, which would be amazing. And you know what? Here's the fun thing. Hitting 1,000 Patreon supporters represents less than 1% of the people who subscribe to my YouTube channel. If less than 1% of the people subscribe to my YouTube channel become Patreon supporters, we'll have enough resources around here to actually hire some more people, which is always great when I get to give a job to somebody and actually be able to make money doing what they're good at and what they love. That would be amazing. But anyway, I'm already giving the plug without going to the plug. Let's go to the commercial break, and we'll be back in just 1 minute. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. All right, again, and a special thank you to all of you guys who are already Patreon supporters of mine. You guys are the ones who make this show possible. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's move on now and get to the live questions that are coming in. By the way, guys, if you have not sent in a super chat yet, please do not. I think we're going to run out of time. So here we go. The first live question today comes to us from Micah, who writes, I know he's mostly known for being a Fantastic Four villain, but wouldn't it be so awesome to see Doctor Doom versus Strange in a magic battle on the big screen? I mean, yeah, that would be great. There's actually a comic series, one of the more popular Doctor Strange comic series, where Doctor Strange actually takes on Doctor Doom as an apprentice. It's actually, and it's one of his more popular titles. Seeing that on the big screen, the interesting thing, even though I still wish X-Men and all that stayed at Fox, but even though that's not going to be happening now, and they are coming over to the MCU, one of the positive things is it opens up a lot of possibilities for things we could see on screen now that we've never seen before. Strange versus Doom is something that we've never had a chance to see before. Maybe that could happen. One of my favorite possibilities, Wolverine fighting Hulk. Oh, Wolverine fighting Hulk. That's another possibility. So, look, I think it's not that far-fetched, Micah. Within the next 5 years, we could see Strange battling Doom. As long as they don't just make Doom, you know, an electric-based being again, then I think there's some pretty cool things they could end up doing with that. All right, the next one comes to us from Manuel Fernandez, who writes, I read an article that says the Disney/Fox merger could make the struggle theater chains are going through even worse. Thoughts? I disagree with that. I think there are challenges that the movie theater chains are facing. I don't see the Fox and Disney merger kind of having any impact on that whatsoever, to be honest with you. Because we're still going to get tons of movies. There are more movies being made today than any other time in history. It won't take away any of the challenges that the movie theater industry is facing today. There are still some very significant challenges they're facing that they need to deal with. But overall, I really don't see this merger being something that's going to affect them overtly negatively in any way. Anyway, that's just my point of view on that. All right, what's next here? Jacob Vanco writes, what camera and lens do you shoot with? Well, up until yesterday, I have been shooting with a Canon 7D, is what I've been using. I had like an f2.8 stop on it, and I think it was 15 to 50. Or 135. No, yeah, it was 18 to 135, I think it was the lens on it. I bought another specifically 50 millimeter lens, but it just didn't give me enough, like as far as distance, it didn't give me enough flexibility to use, so I just stayed with the first one that I had. But as of yesterday, here's the problem with the 7D I had. The problem with the 7D is that it powers off every 30 minutes. If you guys watch my show regularly, you'll know that more than a handful of times I'd be doing the show, bloop, 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 and then all of a sudden the screen goes black. And then all of a sudden I come up on this camera. I use this camera, which is my backup web camera, just in case my main camera goes out. And that started to get frustrating because every once in a while I have to lean forward and click the button on the camera to reset the 30 minutes. And it's not the 30-minute recording limit. It's a 30-minute auto power off thing that can only be avoided if you hit the button. So during the show, I'd have to keep remembering to lean over, hitting the button. And sometimes I get caught up in doing the show and talking about what I'm talking about, and I would forget to do it, and then the screen would go black. So I bought a new camera. I bought the Canon XC15, which is a 4K capable camera in case I want to start doing 4K in the future. I have no plans to yet, but just in case in the future. And I just got it yesterday. So I've just started playing around. The way my picture looks today is probably not the way it's going to look a few weeks from now, but I haven't had a chance to really play around with it yet. But the best part about it is that it has no power off sequence. Like, you know, we've been doing this show for over a half hour now, and the picture hasn't gone away. So that was one of the main reasons I switched. Now, the one thing about the Canon XC15 is that it does not come with an interchangeable lens. It comes with a great lens attached, but it's not an interchangeable lens. So anyway, I'm putting a lot of you guys to sleep now with all this technical talk. But anyway, Jacob, hope that answers your question. Let's see. Siobhan Dixit writes, my man Campea, which superhero film has the best score/theme? I love the First Class, especially the Magneto theme, Avengers theme, and OG Spider-Man. Well, I really have to go with two of them. As far as theme goes, it's different, but overall soundtrack, like The Dark Knight by Zimmer, was great. But I think my favorite superhero theme, you know what? I actually think I'll take the Man of Steel theme over the John Williams Superman theme. I don't know. Maybe if you ask me that in a year, I'll switch that back. But I love that Man of Steel. Dun, 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 dun. I get chills whenever I hear that music. Now, of course, I still get chills when I hear John Williams' Superman theme. That's one of the greatest ever. But I don't know. I go back and forth on them. It's definitely a Superman theme. Just which Superman, I'm not really sure because I love them both. All right. Mark Farley writes, hey, John, new viewer. Love your show. Thank you so much, Mark. What's your over-under on Lando making it into episode 9? I'll put an over-under at 8%. That's where I think a good line is 8%. So it's not impossible. Not impossible. but I think strongly that the smart money is on him not appearing in episode 9, which I'm totally fine with. Don't get me wrong. I love me my Billy D. Williams, and I love me my Lando, but narratively, it doesn't need Lando. So I'm totally fine with him not. I'm just happy we've been getting Billy D. Williams doing the voice of Lando in Rebels, so we've had him coming back. That's great, but I'm going to set the over-under at 8. Not impossible, but pretty damn unlikely. All right. This next one comes from Siobhan Dixon, who writes, saw Wind River today, and oh my god, it's criminally underrated. Last 25 minutes were intense and jaw-dropping. Bernthal needs more recognition. This is in my top 5. Yeah, I love Wind River. Wind River is absolutely in my top 10. It may or may not be in my top 5, just because this competition's so stiff this year. But it is definitely in my top 10. And you're right, it is a highly underrated film that more people need to see. All right, where are we? We're at Manuel Fernandez, who writes, what has been your favorite scene, hero, and or villain of the year? Me, last 10 minutes of Coco, either Wonder Woman or Caesar, and Pennywise. Manuel, I don't like these questions that are like, what's your top this and this? Because these are questions I have to sit down and think, especially if you're asking me questions, what's your best this, and this of this past year? I'd have to sit down and think about it. So just off the top of my head, favorite scene is the, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Favorite hero this year is Logan. Favorite villain of the year, I'll probably have to go with... Favorite villain of the year, I'll go with Falcon. Or Vulture, sorry. I'll go there, and yeah, that's what I'll do. All right, next one. Siobhan Dixon writes, watching Interstellar in 4K HDR, it's mind-blowing. I have not watched that in 4D HKR. I don't know that it would change my perception of it that much, but it does certainly look interesting. Can't think of a good username writes, do you think there should have been a duel between Anakin and Mace in Revenge of the Sith? I'm a fan of Revenge of the Sith, but I felt if there was a duel between the two, it would make Anakin's turn more realistic rather than, I'm evil now, haha. No, I don't think so, because you wanted... Like, would it have been cool to see a big lightsaber duel between Anakin and Mace? Yes. But it would have unbalanced the movie even more than it already was. Like, I don't like the movie. It is the least offensive of all the prequels, but I don't like the movie. Still, you are just about to jump into this massive lightsaber battle that is supposed to be the highlight of the film between Anakin and Obi-Wan. So, do you really want to have, like... I just don't think it's good for the balance of the film to have, like, really within a relatively short amount of time, have this big epic lightsaber duel between Anakin and this guy, and then another big epic lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I'm not sure that you could do that. Not to mention, I think Windu is supposed to be, like, more powerful than Obi-Wan. So a straight-up one-on-one battle at that point, considering Anakin lost to Obi-Wan, I don't know that you can make any kind of a logical thing that he has this big epic battle against Mace Windu, who outranks Obi-Wan, and defeats Mace Windu, and then goes off and fights Obi-Wan and loses to Obi-Wan. To me, that doesn't make sense. It throws it out of balance. It's too heavy on big epic lightsaber battles, like basically right side by side with each other. So I actually think, even though, yeah, that's a cool notion, I actually fall on the side that I actually think they made the right decision to not have a big lightsaber fight between Anakin and Windu. That's just my opinion, though. You may have a different one, which is totally cool. All right. Freaking Epic Gaming writes, I see you had a Blue Yeti mic in the background of some videos. What mic are you using now? Any software to enhance? Well, okay, so yes. I go back and forth sometimes. I am very happy... with this, I keep it right over here on the side, with this Blue Yeti microphone. I think it's pretty cheap. You can get it for like $130. I think it's that, maybe it's a little bit more expensive than that, but it's not a terribly expensive mic, especially considering the quality of this mic. This mic is fantastic, and I really like it. Now, I decided I had a field recorder for when I was recording lapel mics or whatever, and my audio is going to go weird for a second, but I'm going to pick it up here. It's this thing. It is the Zoom H6 recorder. Now, what it's mainly built for is for you to go out in the field, and you'll see here on the side, it's got XLR inputs for you to plug in external microphones, and it's got a really great thing on the top here where you can do Like you can have, what's the word I'm looking for? You can add compression effects. You can add a whole bunch of stuff to it to really control your audio. However, you can also attach directly. They make mics specifically to attach to it. And what I found with this particular microphone that I bought to attach to the H6, it does a great job because I'm in a spare bedroom. Ooh, yeah, I do not own $1 million studio. I converted my spare bedroom into a studio where there's noise going on outside, and sometimes there's noise around me, whatever. This mic does such a great job of completely isolating the audio that's just right in front of it. So very rarely, I've had helicopters go by, not necessarily right overhead, but I've had helicopters go by and then not heard them in the background of the video later on because it's just terrific. So it depends on the environment I'm in and what I'm doing at the time. So sometimes I'll use the Yeti microphone, sometimes I'll use the Zoom H6 with the attached boom mic on it, and that's what I'm using right now. Thanks a lot. I love taking technical questions. That's really cool. Reggie Phoenix writes, thoughts on Netflix's Bright? Okay, I was supposed to last night. Too many things came up. That's part of the reality of having to work for myself here is that, but I am doing, as soon as I'm done this show, I'm going to do a Bright review, and the Bright review will go up. So I don't want to tip my hand just yet. The Bright review is going up within the next 2 to 3 hours. It'll be up, I promise. Sharad Ritchie writes, what's best movie you've ever seen, not favorite? And you think there is a chance of you leaving a theater in the future saying that's the best movie I've ever seen? Well, of course, every movie you go into, every movie you walk into has the potential of you going, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Absolutely. I'll say the best movie I've ever seen is Return of the Jedi. I think the Return of the Jedi is the best movie I've ever seen. It's my favorite of the Star Wars films, and yeah, I'll go Return of the Jedi. But absolutely, Sharad, there's absolutely a chance. Every single time you go into that theater, you got to go in with understanding this might be the best movie I've ever seen, it might be the worst, but just go in, let the movie hit you, and experience it the way you experience it, and then see what happens. All right, I can't think of a good username, writes, hey, John, would you like to see a Star Wars movie about the origin of the Jedi? Oh, man, I'd like to see a Star Wars movie about just about anything. About anything other than, you know, new solo stories, and I don't mean Han Solo, I just mean standalone solo stories about characters we already know. But almost anything, there's thousands of years of Star Wars lore in history. I would be up for just about any of them. And the origin of the Jedi? Sure. As long as you don't, you know, clear away the mystery too much. Like, still leave enough mystery and mythology to it. But yeah, I'd be for it. Sure, absolutely. Why not? My opinions, that's a great username, writes, hey, John, my best mate. My mother, Amanda, is also a huge fan of your show. Oh, great, and wishes you and your wife a Merry Christmas. Also, John, could Lando be in episode 9? Well, obviously, I already answered that question. I put the over and under at 8%. But thank you so much for wishing me well. I can't wait for Christmas. Christmas is my favorite time of year. It's Christmas and then the Oscars, which is great because they happen one right after the other. So Christmas is my favorite time of year. The Oscars is my second favorite time of year. My birthday is my third favorite time of the year. But often my birthday gets completely overshadowed because quite often my birthday happens on the same day as the Oscars. And they always happen like just within a few days apart from each other. So I often just forget my birthday and say, forget that. Forget a birthday party. Let's plan our Oscar party because I'm more interested in the Oscars than my birthday. But Christmas has always been my favorite time of year. Next up, we got Cameron Belgrade, who writes, do you think there is any chance of a sequel to Solo? Well, it's impossible to say at this point, really. I mean, we got to see Solo first. Let's see Solo, see what the reaction is like, see what the box office gets, see what the critic response is, see what the fan response is. Then we can form an opinion. I mean, look, yeah, if Solo makes $1.2 billion at the box office and the audiences love it and the critics love it, then yeah, then there's a high chance they'll want to pull the band back together and make a sequel. Absolutely. But it's really impossible for us at this point to even take a guess until we see what all those results are. Box office result, critic response, audience response. Once we get a gauge of all that, then we can determine and start making our guesses if they will do another one. But until then, it's pretty tough. So I'll just say, yeah, it's possible. Of course it's possible. Tony Bush writes, have you noticed Devil Dinosaur on runways? Well, if that's just the dinosaur, yes, I have. Absolutely. but I don't want to give anything away. If you haven't watched the show yet, watch the show. It's great. It's really good. I am very pleasantly surprised by Runaways. I did not think they could turn that into a good show, especially with Hulu doing it. Because I haven't been really big on Hulu originals so far. I love Hulu as a service. I think it's great. I go to Hulu more than I go to Netflix. But as far as original content go, I didn't know how they would do. But Runaways is like turning into one of my favorite new shows of the year. So if you haven't checked out Runaways, give it a shot. Ed Grood writes, "Hey John, great show. Thank you so much, Ed. I've been playing God of War 3 and love the series. I think that this one would do great as a Netflix treatment." Well, I mean, look, anything has the potential to be a great movie or, TV movie or TV show. Anything has the potential if you put it together correctly. God of War could be an expensive endeavor, though. That could be really expensive. I don't know that Netflix would be looking into doing something like that, but who knows? You never know. I have not played God of War 3. But it's certainly one of the more popular titles out there. So you have the advantage of name recognition going along with it for sure. But who knows? Let's see what comes out of that. All right. Ben Rayner writes in, "Hey, John, you're my favorite YouTuber, and I love your extra level of passion you have for this job, and I hope you really have a great and wonderful holiday and New Year's." Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate that, man. And look, I'm not gonna. I love what I do. I really do. I love what I do. It's hard. I put in a lot of hours. You never know what's going to work, what's not going to work. You open yourself up to a lot of abuse from strangers from around the world who decide to call you a lot of names because you don't like the same movie that they like. It's an awkward job, but I do love it. And what makes it so great is having guys like you along that I can interact with every day. So thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate that. Manuel Fernandez writes in, 2017 hasn't been the best year. Do you believe 2018 will be better, whether it's with film, politics, etc.? I personally have faith it will be. Well, I always have faith that the new year will be better than the old. And there are many ways that 2017 has been a very good year. There's many ways that 2017 has been a bad year. But I always, just for me, myself, I approach every new year with the idea and the hope and the optimism that this year will be even better than the previous year. So, fingers crossed, here's hope. But for film, I think for film, this year's been spectacular. I really do. I think it's been just unbelievably great. A few disappointments, yes, but a lot of films that came out of nowhere that I just fell in love with that I'm going to be watching probably for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I think as far as film goes, it's been great, but here's hoping 2018 is even better. The Pop Culture Crotcheter writes, "Thanks for making a show where bigotry/misogyny aren't tolerated. Can't speak for all of your fans, but it means a hell of a lot to me." Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And of course, yesterday's episode of the John Campea Show definitely got a lot of response. A lot more positive response than I was expecting. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting a much bigger backlash than we got. I remember even before I started yesterday's show, I talked to Ann about it before she left for work. I said, "Ann, I need your opinion. Look, this is coming up, and I'm thinking about addressing it and just really being open about it. But it could mean I could lose some subscribers. It could mean I could lose some Patreon supporters. It could mean blah, blah, blah. But what do you think?" And Ann said what she always says to me. She goes, "Just follow what you think you need to do, and I'm behind it. No matter if you lose everybody, great. If you don't, fine. But just do what you think you need to do," which is how amazing. First of all, let me take a second here and talk about my wife. My wife, Ann, is one of the best partners any person could ever hope for. Not only is she just cool and gorgeous and beautiful and intelligent and ambitious and highly educated and all these types of wonderful things, but on top of that, I could never have asked for a more supportive partner. Imagine most partners, if you're married, imagine your partner coming to you who has a full-time job that helps pay all your bills and says, "I want to quit my full-time corporate job and do this little thing on YouTube where I may make no money at all. And we may lose our savings me doing it, blah, blah. What do you think, hun?" You know what my wife said? My wife said, "If that's what your heart's telling you to do, let's go for it. I support you 100%. That's what my wife did. And yeah, I don't know how I got on track about talking about Ann, but I'm a very, very lucky man. I'm punching out of my weight class when it comes to Ann. All right, thanks so much for the kind words, though, Pop Culture. I appreciate that. Daniel Briggs writes, "I like The Last Jedi very much, but killing off Admiral Akbar, Sorry, guy. I mean, I know there are those of you who are still kind of sensitive about spoilers for Last Jedi, even though you probably all already know everything about it. I apologize about that. I wasn't saying, but hey, it's out there now, so I'm going to answer the question. So my apologies for that happening. I like The Last Jedi very much, but killing off Admiral Akbar. Johnson will burn in hell. Kind of ironic how he went out because of a trap, though. No, look, seriously, I think it was great. Admiral Akbar died the way Admiral Akbar would want to die, in battle. Fighting for what he believes in. Fighting, protecting the people he wants to protect. And that's how he died. And, you know, one of the things I love about The Last Jedi is that everything's done, kind of handled the way in real life. Guess what? You can have a great hero in the world, and then out of nowhere just be driving down the street and be hit by a drunk driver and die. And we can go, well, that's not fair. That guy deserved a heroic death. Well, no, that's life, and that's war. And Akbar died in a significant military battle, and he died. So I had no problem with it. I mean, I'm like everybody else. When they're having that briefing and they mentioned that Akbar was gone, my heart sank, sure. But that's battle. That's war. And it happened that way. And I kind of appreciate that. That's how they handled it. So I myself was fine with it. Personally, I was fine with it. But I know you're not the only one who wanted Akbar to have like a more grand send-off. But like I said, for me, it worked. Totally understand if it doesn't work for you. Siobhan writes, if you had to watch one scene for the rest of your life, which would you choose? Emo Peter dancing, Daredevil playground fight, or Howard the Duck love scene? Probably at least some of the fight, even though the teeter-totter scene in Daredevil was ridiculous, it was still a really good fight choreography. It's a ridiculous scene, and they needed to cut that scene out of the movie. But at least there's good fight choreography, so on that level alone, I'll take the Daredevil scene. Joel321 writes, what film that could not be made do you wish could, you know, do me a favor, guys, this isn't Twitter, so you're not limited too much. Just write out your words. Don't make me interpret your words, because then I'm not even sure what it is you guys are saying, you know what I'm saying? So thank you for sending that in, but maybe try it again with actually writing out what it is you're asking, because I'm not sure what it was you're asking. Ben Rayner writes, who was the better General Ross, Sam Elliott or William Hurt? Not the better movie, just the better General Ross. For me, it's Sam Elliott. Curious to hear your thoughts. I agree, Sam Elliott. I love William Hurt. William Hurt. If you're going to ask me who's the better overall actor, I'm going to go with William Hurt. I think, and I love Sam Elliott, but I think William Hurt is like a world-class actor. Absolutely. But as far as the interpretation of General Thunderbolt Ross, I like Sam Elliott's Thunderbolt Ross a little bit more, to be honest with you. So I would get a big kick out of it if they brought him back. I really would. All right, Colt Royster writes, do you think in 100 years, Star Wars will be rebooted as a classic reboot for the generation of that time period? Oh, dude, I think Star Wars is going to be rebooted maybe 20 years from now. Yeah, maybe 20, maybe 25 years from now, I think they'll reboot it. I really do. And so all those questions, when I say I have no problems with reboots, and everybody then says to me, John, you wouldn't say that if it was Star Wars. Let me go on record right now. I'm totally fine with it. I mean, you can't do it right now because you got an ongoing storyline. But 20 years from now? Yeah, I could totally see it happening. I could totally see them going, okay, it's time to reboot this thing, get this thing started again, and restart from the original story. I could see them doing it, and I'm perfectly fine with them doing it. Because you know why? If it's good, then I got another good Star Wars movie. And if it's bad, who cares? I still got the original. There's no downside. Absolutely no downside. So I'm perfectly fine with it. Rodriguez Ramirez writes, how did you find out about the Star Wars spoiler? Would they not want to keep it a secret if it was considered the mother of all spoilers? Well, of course they want to keep it secret. But look, I've been in this business a long time, so I know a lot of people in this business. And somebody slipped one thing to me. They didn't reveal anything else, even though they probably knew a hell of a lot more, but they revealed that one thing to me, and I kept my mouth shut. And I'm not going to say who it was, clearly, but I kept my mouth shut when they gave it to me. And it was funny because I was talking to them about maybe 2 days after I saw the movie, because I hadn't talked to them in a while. But I talked to them about 2 days after I saw the movie. He was like, see, I told you, I never doubted it, but it was really cool. But anyway, so there's that. Tony Bush writes, I find all the bigotry surrounding The Last Jedi interesting, considering that the highest grossing film of all time is about a minority race overthrowing the man. Well, that's true too. And like I brought this up the other day too. People are saying, why is it all of a sudden Star Wars is about this? It's like, do you not know anything about Star Wars? The original Star Wars trilogy, which you claim to love so much, is about a white race of humans only, and all white guys who are despotic and hold down any alien race. Any race that's not theirs, they hold down, pin down. They're seen as second-class citizens, blah, 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 and the superiority of their race. It's big. They're the Nazis. And I think that's what it was about. And so the white men were the bad guy. I mean, that's the thing I want to say to some of these people with some of their complaints about the new trilogy. It's just like, okay, so now I understand that you actually don't know anything about the original Star Wars trilogy that you claim to love so much. Now that I know that you actually don't know what the hell you're talking about, now I know how to take your comments. So that's what I feel like saying to most of them. Anyway, thanks a lot, man. Liam Phillips writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and peace to you and your family this festive season." Thank you so much, and right back at you. Yeah, again, this is my favorite time of year, and I really only get a chance to go home once a year and to see my mom and my dad, and I'm getting choked up here for a second. You know what? My mom watches this show. Mom, I love you. I love my family, my dad, my brother, my sisters. I don't nearly get home enough, and I'm not a phone talker, so I don't phone and talk to people on the phone. And it's just, for me to go home is really great. And I get really excited to go home. Anyway, Tony Bush writes, "I love Daisy Ridley's comments about Mary Sue. I haven't read what she said about them, so I can't comment on that. But now I know what that, I'm going to go and look it up and see what she had to say." Ross Pitt writes, Ross Pitt Shark Hunter writes, "How many 5-year-olds would it take to beat Darth Vader in a fight?" Oh, more than exist. More than exist. They'll just keep running at him, and they'll just keep swinging his lightsaber. I guess as many as it would take for him to run out of gas. Like when he absolutely has to sleep or eat or rest, at that point, and there's still hundreds of thousands of 5-year-olds, I'll go 100,000. It'll take 100,000 5-year-olds to take out Darth Vader. How about that? Donnie Yasu writes, "Did you feel like Rey had a hint of jealousy when she saw Rose and Finn together at the end of The Last Jedi?" Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I do think there was just a hint of, oh, in her face, even though she's the one who firmly planted good old Finn in the old friend zone at The Force Awakens. But as it is in life, there were a couple of times in my life where there was a girl I would be interested in, but I was clearly planted in her friend zone. And then when I would start dating somebody else, all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, well, wait, what? You're supposed to be into me," and then start making, I mean, that's life, right? Like, that happens. But yes, I agree with you, and we haven't talked about that. When he's over there, like, tucking in Rose, like caring for Rose, and she sees it, I did sense a glimpse of, oh, what's going on here? Like, sort of thing. So we'll see if they do anything with that moving forward. But then she meets Poe. It's like, oh, you're so handsome. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. Christian Lamas writes, "Better filmography, James Cameron or Christopher Nolan? Love your show and keep up the treat." I think you meant great work. Thank you so much. Oh, I mean, look, right now I'll go Cameron for now. Christopher Nolan is close and could overtake him. But when you're talking about Cameron, you're talking about my all-time favorite action film with True Lies. You're talking about Terminator. You're talking about, I mean, the two biggest hit films of all time, Titanic and Avatar. I mean, that's a tough one to overcome. So I'll go Cameron right now, but let's see what happens. Because 5 years from now, that could be a totally different situation. They're both very close. Siobhan Dixon writes, "Which movie has an outside shot of dethroning Avengers Infinity War as the highest grosser of 2018? It's going to make $1.5 billion easy, like 1 and 2 Incredibles." Nothing. Not Solo, nothing. Nothing even has an outside shot. Avengers Infinity War will be the biggest box office movie of 2018. Of that, I have very little doubt. If anything has the slightest outside shot, it might be Solo, but I don't think Solo is going to come within 400 or 500 million of it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm going to go Avengers Infinity War, and I think that $1.5 billion mark, I think that's pretty accurate. That's what I'm pegging it to hit as well. David Campbell writes, your video on the dark side of fandom motivated me to send this and join Patreon. Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm happy to replace any lost revenue from offended ball bags. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate that. You have become one of the reasons this show is even going to exist moving forward. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Jacob Lee writes, John, you are a Don. Stay pimpin', brother. Thank you so much, Jacob. I appreciate the kind words. Just the last couple ones here, then we'll wrap this up today. Dominic Rosero writes, hey, John, been following you since the AMC days and the 24-hour fundraiser days that you did. Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Almost killed me, but it was a lot of fun. Love what you do. Any word on that Highlander reboot? No, I know, like, all I know is it finally started getting some movement because, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but one of the directors of John Wick signed on to be the director for a Highlander reboot. And then they talked about it, and then all of a sudden the talking stopped. Now, I haven't heard it's not happening. Not at all. I haven't heard it's been stopped or anything like that. So as far as I know, they're still gearing up for it, but I don't know anything beyond that. If you guys know of anything, like any recent updates on it, do me a favor, find a link and put the link in the comment section below for the rest of us, because that would be really helpful. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for sending in the question, Dominic. I'm really excited about it, though, because I love Highlander. The first Highlander is the one film on my top 10 favorite films of all time list that everybody, like all the films I have in my top 10 list are not necessarily the same other people would have, but they all look at my list and go, okay, yeah, I can see why that would be there and blah, blah. The Highlander is the one film on my list that makes people go, wait, what? You got, yep, the Highlander, the first Highlander with Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Clancy Brown is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. I love that movie. Let's not talk about the sequels, but the first one I absolutely love. So I'm excited to see what they can do with the reboot. And maybe it'll be total garbage like all the other Highlander stuff, or maybe it'll be great. We'll have to wait and see. I'm certainly encouraged about the director they have on board. All right. Third Man 3 writes, fans have the idea that Star Wars is always about lineage and connections. This isn't the show Lost. In the first two trilogies, we basically followed one family. Shouldn't we focus on a good story? No, absolutely. I've been saying that for a long time. The story of Star Wars is not the story of the Skywalkers. It has been up until now. But when you look at the big picture of Star Wars, going back to the Old Republic days and onward, there have been hundreds of thousands, there's been thousands and thousands of years with no Skywalkers around, and yet it's the Star Wars universe. This period of time we're in is a story about the Skywalkers. The story of Star Wars is not the story of the Skywalkers. The Skywalkers have a window of time when they come in, and apparently a time when they're leaving. But that is just one window of time. And in this window of time, yes, Star Wars has been about the Skywalkers, but the overall, if you take a step back and look at the bigger picture and understand anything about Star Wars lore, then you'll know that overall the story of Star Wars is not about the Skywalkers. It's about that galaxy. And it is time to move on from that. So I'm kind of excited that they may. Shivam Dixon writes, what happened to Nathan Fillion? Any new projects? Well, he's been in that show Con Man, and he's had that show, what is it, Castle? Which is, even though everybody thinks of Nathan Fillion and they think of Firefly, Firefly was a failure compared to Castle. Castle was by far the most successful thing Nathan Fillion's ever done. And I can't even remember how many seasons that went. Like it went 7, 8, 9 seasons, something stupid like that. Like it went on and on and on. What he's got coming up, not really sure. Don't know what's going on, but he has been very busy with his television career lately. So where he's going to go on from here, because I believe they've ended Castle now. Where he's going now, I'm not sure, but he has been very busy and very successful. Let's see. The Little Nerdy Birdie writes, happy holidays, John. Enjoy Canada. Thank you so much. I'm sure that I will. And happy holidays to you as well. Greg Cybulski writes, favorite film to watch with the family during the holidays? We always end up watching Star Wars or The Godfather. Well, a new tradition that's happened with me and my family, because my mom is the one who introduced me to Star Wars, is that when I go home, we eventually take the family out to go watch the new Star Wars film. That's become a new tradition. So I'm sure we're going to carry on that tradition this year. I'm sure me and my mom, and maybe if I can convince my dad to go. My dad is completely upset about the cost of going to the movies these days. $18 for popcorn and soda. Anyway. Yeah, so that was my last experience at a movie theater. I kid you not. Maybe you haven't heard this story. Maybe you have. But so last year I'm home for the holidays. I love my dad. My dad is the greatest man I've ever known. And we go to the theater. He doesn't go to the theater a lot. So me and Ann take my mom and my dad to go see Star Wars, to go see Rogue One. And we're standing around the foyer getting ready to go into the theater. I'm like, where's Dad? And he's over there concession stand. Want to get some popcorn and a soda. And I walk over and I see my dad talking to the concession stand person. I'm getting closer, and then all of a sudden I just hear my dad going, $18! And that's how much like a popcorn and soda, and I think a soda for my mom or whatever it was he was trying to order. It was $18, and my dad wasn't having any of it. $18? What the hell am I doing for $18? He turns around and walks away. I'm like, oh, Dad. But hey, that's my dad's story. So yeah, I can't wait to go back there. So we're gonna be doing that, and you know, eventually we end up watching A Christmas Story too at some point. So there's that. Okay, going to rush through these last couple ones here. Oh, and then a whole bunch more came in that I'm not going to be able to get to. Okay. So, gosh, where was the last one? Okay. This one comes to us from Oliver Mahuin, who writes, from 1 to 10, your excitement for TNM and Venom. Oh, the New Mutants. Okay. For the New Mutants, I'll put it at a 7. I'm really, really curious about this whole indie horror vibe they've got going on, so I'm quite excited for that. And I'll go also a 7 for Venom. I'm really curious to see what they did with Tom Hardy on board, and they're just adding more talent. I think they just said that Woody Harrelson was coming on board. Anyway, I'm very excited for them, so I'll put, from 1 to 10, I'm going to put a 7. And for me, I know some people will go a 7. That means nothing. No, to me, 7 is very high. And so I'm going to go 7 on that. Okay, guys, I have run out of time, and there is a lot more questions here that I am not going to have time to do right now, so I will make a second companion video to this one that will go up later today. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me. So for those of you sending questions, your questions will get answered, your comments will get read. I'm just going to have to do them in a separate video later today. Keep your eyes open for that, coming a little bit later today. Okay, guys, that will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Wrapping up this Friday. So glad and honored that you guys decided to spend part of this Friday here with me, talking about movies and all of our favorite things. I've got a bunch of videos coming up today. We've got, oh, today's Friday, guys. It's the Weekly Hero. We got the Weekly Hero live at 1 p.m. talking about all the happenings in the world of comic book movies. We're going to be talking about that, exclusively about comic book movies. So come back and join us at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is 4 p.m. East Coast time. I got my review for Bright. I got a review for The Greatest Showman coming. And then I'll have a follow-up video. It's going to be a busy day. So, and that and all that, and me and my friends and Ann are going to go to Universal City Walk today, or Universal Park, and have some fun there too. So I'm going to get as much as I can done today. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Join the subscriber list, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment below, understanding that we're all film fans together, so even if we have disagreements, we're all on the same team. Let's treat each other like that. And yeah, become one of my Patreon supporters. That will do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.